The narrative, and she's a very domineering woman. She controls everything. I just thought this woman is really doing something quite dreadful to Britain, and Harry has fallen in love with her in a ludicrous way and has gone along as her accomplice. But she had one amazing ability, which was to find a man who needed her.
Oh.
And she played him brilliantly. The actress was sensational.
The biggest story surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle right now may not be one shocking quote or another round of royal gossip. It is the much bigger argument being pushed by royal biographer Tom Bower, who claims that Harry's relationships, behaviour and public life have changed through a pattern that allegedly developed over several years. At the centre of the controversy is Queen Camilla, and a private comment Bower attributes to her in his book, Betrayal. According to Bower's account, Camilla reportedly told a friend that she believed Meghan had brainwashed Harry.
Harry and Meghan are going to be petrified about the idea of Tom Bower snooping back into their married life, right?
I realised how successful she'd been. Here was a woman who was nothing. I mean, born, broken family, the whole thing, unknown actress, all the rest of it, becomes a global star, which is what she wanted. When she was about 9 or 10, she said to her father, I want to be famous, I want to walk down the red carpet. And she has now done that. And she's calculated that she could be a great success and by marrying Harry.
That is an explosive claim, but the real controversy goes far beyond those 6 words. Bower reportedly tries to support his argument by pointing towards several changes in Harry's personal life. He claims Harry became distant from longtime friends, changed his phone number without informing some members of his family, and gradually developed a much more confrontational attitude toward people and institutions he once appeared comfortable around. According to Bower, Camilla allegedly noticed Harry beginning to mirror Meghan's views and reactions. Things that may once have been minor disagreements supposedly became much deeper conflicts.
Meghan is a consummate survival actress. And you raise this extraordinary beginning of the year when she carved 2025 in the sand. And, it's a very, very interesting image that. It came out on New Year's Day this year because the previous weeks had been absolutely turgid and torrid for her. She had been dubbed Duchess Difficult again. There had been allegations of bullying.
Tyrant in high heel.
The relaxed and outgoing prince the public remembered was, in Bower's description, increasingly focused on resentment and getting even with people he believed had treated him unfairly. Of course, that does not prove Harry was being controlled by anyone. People change, marriages can reshape priorities, and family conflicts can become more serious over time. But Bower's argument is that these incidents should not be viewed separately. He presents them as pieces of a larger pattern. First came distance from old friends, then tensions with family members became more public. After that, Harry's relationship with royal institutions grew increasingly strained. Eventually, the disputes expanded into charities, media battles, business deals, and questions surrounding Harry's commercial value.
Some ways he does despise his wife. I mean, we saw that on the recent Middle Eastern tour when he was constantly rejecting her attempt at public displays of affection because he knows that what she's doing is like ownership. It's not about love. It's not about affection. It's about ownership, and it's about showing the world who is in control. And he can't stand that.
Yes, you're the first person to say how limited Prince Harry is, unfortunately, and how his wife trades off her husband's fame and fortune, or not so great fortune now. I mean, this is the problem, but we're still interested because, after all, he's a great character in our modern day.
That progression is what makes the story more interesting than one private comment allegedly made by Camilla. Bower appears to be arguing that Harry's transformation was gradual, with each broken relationship making the next conflict easier to understand. And remember the detail about Harry changing his phone number without telling members of his own family. That may seem small compared with royal exits, lawsuits, interviews, and multi-million-dollar business deals, but details like that can reveal just how serious the distance had reportedly become. The controversy became even bigger when Harry and Meghan publicly pushed back against the book. Instead of making the story disappear, their response created even more attention around Betrayal and encouraged more people to discuss what Bower had written. That reaction created a strange situation.
I think that's why he cuts quite a lonely figure, because his friends all throughout his life do feel ostracized. He is just a bit of a lonely soul, where she's got her friends in America. He, though, is very much on his own, and I think it's quite sad.
A book critical of Harry and Meghan received an enormous wave of publicity. partly because the couple became connected to the conversations surrounding it. Many reports and commentary videos will focus almost entirely on Camilla's alleged brainwashed remark, because it makes the strongest headline. But Bauer's broader argument is much more detailed. He is asking readers to examine what happened to Harry's friendships, family relationships, institutional connections, charitable partnerships, and business opportunities over time. The central question is not simply whether Harry changed after meeting Meghan. Most people change after marriage, major family disputes, and enormous public pressure. The bigger question is whether the repeated breakdown of relationships around Harry represents coincidence, personal choice, outside influence, or something much more complicated.
There's an appalling narcissism there, an appalling self-interest. It's self-love. That, especially for Meghan, everything is about self-love.
Yes.
Which is becomes sort of her survival instinct. Everything is about.
And according to the material reportedly serialized by The Times, Bauer believes the evidence does not end with Harry becoming distant from his family. The next part of his argument focuses on how that isolation allegedly developed, who remained inside Harry's circle, and what happened when people who had known him for years began disappearing from his life. According to Tom Bauer's account, Prince Harry did not simply become more independent from the royal family overnight. Bauer presents it as a gradual shift in which Harry allegedly began rejecting palace advice, distancing himself from long-time connections, and taking greater control over decisions that had once been managed within the royal system. Bauer claims Meghan encouraged Harry to push for more independence and resist the traditional expectations placed on senior royals. Harry reportedly did not want to follow the familiar path of remaining in the background while other family members carried out the biggest royal duties. Then the personal relationships started changing. Old friends reportedly disappeared from Harry's inner circle. His phone number was changed without some relatives being told. Palace advisors who once helped manage difficult situations were allegedly ignored or bypassed.
He is having a breakdown in real time. We see it. He is completely unable to hide the totally complex feelings that come to the fore every time he is in public with Meghan Markle.
20 years ago, that woman would not be able to marry a working member of the British royal family. Even though she's an actress, even though she's playing a role, that is just beneath the British royal family.
Again, any one of those details could have a reasonable explanation. People lose contact with friends, families argue, adults change phone numbers and choose different advisors. But Bauer's argument is that the number of strained relationships kept growing, and the same concerns allegedly started coming from several directions. That tension reportedly reached a serious point during a private meeting at Kensington Palace in 2018. According to Bauer, Prince William and Catherine attempted to discuss their concerns directly with Harry and Meghan. The conversation allegedly became heated, with Meghan reportedly telling William to take his finger out of her face. William had already expressed concerns to Harry before the engagement, reportedly warning his brother that the relationship was moving too quickly. That advice did not appear to improve the situation between them.
In the book, Harry must be nuts. This is one of the text messages his friends were sending around to each other after Meghan's first introduction to Harry's friends in 2017 during a shooting weekend at Sandringham.
Bauer also claims Catherine believed Meghan was frustrated by Harry's limited chances of ever becoming king. That remains Bauer's account of private conversations and motivations, not an established fact, but it adds another layer to the growing conflict he describes. And this is where the story starts moving beyond palace disagreements. When similar concerns appear around different parts of someone's life, people naturally begin asking whether there is a larger pattern. Bauer points to Camilla, William, Catherine, and eventually people connected to Harry's charitable work as individuals who allegedly noticed serious changes or problems. But the controversy surrounding Sentebale takes the discussion in a completely different direction. In 2023, Dr. Sophie Chandauka became chair of Centerbale's board of trustees. Centerbal was co-founded by Harry to support children and young people affected by HIV and AIDS in southern Africa. And Harry had spent years presenting the charity as one of the most meaningful projects of his public life.
having somebody like Dr. Sophie Chandauka, who Harry and Meghan see as being beneath them, tell them, listen, we've done a brand audit and it sucks.
Where has all the money gone? A few months later, in autumn 2025, the Sussexes faced a harsh reality. The foreign tours and the Invictus competition had been lucrative, yet they were fast running out of money. With high security costs, they needed every year at least $3 million after paying tax to survive.
Chandauka brought experience from the corporate and financial world, and according to Bauer, she wanted to understand how Harry's public image was affecting the organisation. During a fundraising trip between Singapore and Tokyo, supported by Japanese philanthropist Haruhisa Handa, Chandauka reportedly presented Harry with the results of a brand audit. This was not based on a few random opinions online. According to Bauer, around 50 organisations and potential donors were approached and asked whether they wanted to be publicly associated with Prince Harry. The reported results raised serious questions. By that stage, Harry had already stepped away from royal duties, criticised members of his family, released personal claims through interviews and projects, and become one of the most debated public figures connected to the monarchy. That level of attention can create headlines, but headlines do not automatically create trust from donors or business partners.
I do think that when you're mocked so publicly as they've been, their value begins to nosedive pretty quickly. And I don't think they're finding any more sources of income.
According to Bauer's version of events, Chandauka sat directly across from Harry during that flight and explained what the audit had revealed. And what Harry allegedly heard was not another complaint from a relative, an angry newspaper columnist, or a stranger posting online. It was a professional assessment of how organisations and donors reportedly viewed his name, his reputation, and the possible risks of being publicly connected to him. The reported results of the brand audit were brutal for Prince Harry's public image. According to Tom Bauer's account, the feedback suggested that potential donors and organisations had serious concerns about connecting themselves to Harry's entertainment projects and the controversy surrounding his public life. Dr. Sophie Chandauka allegedly delivered the message directly. People don't want to be associated with your Netflix shows, and especially not with Meghan.
I think professionally they've gone down dramatically, and I predicted it in the book, but even I would not have thought it'd be that accelerated. Harry has a problem because he's lost his charity Sentebale in Africa. He had better up, and all these commercial deals are declining. I think that his reputation is somewhat toxic, and I think Invictus is his only lifeline, and there'll be problems with that too.
Bauer claims Chandauka also argued that Meghan had limited brand value in the United States and that her public reputation was hurting Harry's ability to attract major organisations and corporate donors. Those are extremely serious claims, and they represent Bauer's account of private discussions rather than independently established facts. Still, the way Harry allegedly reacted is a major part of the story. According to Bauer, Harry did not immediately challenge the data or request another audit. Instead, he reportedly brought up Johnny Depp and the financial support Depp continued to attract despite his highly public legal battle with Amber Heard. The comparison raised an obvious question. Could Harry remain commercially valuable even while surrounded by controversy? Chandauka's reported response was direct. Times have changed. She allegedly explained that Sentebale needed American companies willing to support the charity's mission instead of companies interested only in Harry's celebrity status. They don't want your victimhood. That message reportedly marked a turning point in the relationship between Harry and the charity's leadership. The argument was no longer about palace traditions, private family disagreements, or newspaper headlines. It was about money, donors, and whether Harry's public reputation was helping or hurting an organisation he had spent years building. And according to Bauer, Harry initially appeared willing to listen. In October 2024, Harry travelled to Lesotho, returning to the country after several years away. The visit suggested he was becoming more involved with Sentebale's work again and reconnecting with the mission that had once been central to his public identity. But Bauer claims the situation later changed. According to his account, Meghan became involved in the growing disagreement, and Harry allegedly began pushing for greater control over Sentebale.
There's no comparison there because Harry continues to back Meghan Markle, publicly back her and all of her terrible behaviour, not to mention the fact that Johnny Depp has always been a bad boy film star rather than a royal trying to do good in the world.
Bauer further claims Harry argued that the brand audit itself had caused him psychological harm. The complaint, according to this version of events, was not simply about whether the findings were accurate, but about the impact the process of conducting and presenting the audit allegedly had on him. By March 2025, the conflict had reached breaking point. Prince Harry and Sentebale co-founder Prince CSO both resigned as patrons of the organisation after a major dispute involving the charity's board and leadership. The controversy quickly attracted regulatory attention, with the UK Charity Commission examining concerns connected to the organisation and how the dispute had been handled. In August 2025, the regulator published its findings. The Commission did not find evidence of widespread or systemic bullying, harassment, misogyny, or misogynoir at Centerbal, but it criticised failures in governance and the way the dispute had been allowed to damage the charity's reputation. That distinction matters. Harry was not found responsible for the broad bullying allegations that had surrounded the controversy, but the organisation still suffered serious reputational damage as the leadership battle became public. And that brings the story back to the larger pattern Bauer is trying to build. First came the breakdown of old friendships, then tensions inside the royal family, then conflicts with palace advisors and institutions. Now one of Harry's most important charitable relationships had also fallen apart. Whether those events are truly connected remains open to interpretation. But according to Bauer's argument, the next stage of the controversy would raise an even bigger question. What happens when repeated personal and institutional conflicts begin affecting not only Harry's reputation, but the commercial empire Harry and Meghan were trying to build in America?
That's only going to work, Harry, once you kick Meghan to the curb and blow the whistle on her terrible behaviour.
What Meghan never really understood, probably not even now, is that when she was cheered as a working royal, it wasn't because she was Meghan Markle, it was because she represented British royalty and all the values of the Queen and all the tradition and 1,000 years of history.
If Harry and Meghan wanted Tom Bauer's book to disappear quickly, the easiest strategy may have been to say absolutely nothing. Books about the royal family appear constantly. Headlines explode for a few days, and then public attention usually moves toward the next controversy. Instead, the Sussexes responded before Betrayal had even reached bookstores. On March 14th, 2026, around 2 weeks before the book's scheduled publication, a spokesperson for Harry and Meghan issued a statement that was reported across several major media outlets. The statement strongly attacked Bauer's work, describing it as deranged conspiracy and melodrama. The spokesperson also claimed Bauer had crossed the line from legitimate criticism into personal fixation and accused him of creating increasingly complicated theories about people he allegedly did not personally know. That response immediately created another round of headlines. Bauer quickly pushed back. In comments reported by the Daily Express, he argued that Harry and Meghan were approaching the end of their opportunities in Hollywood and criticised what he viewed as their exaggerated sense of importance. At that point, the dispute stopped being only about the contents of Betrayal. It became a public battle between the author and the people at the centre of his book. Then came the sales numbers. According to reports, Betrayal climbed to the top of Amazon's bestseller rankings before the official publication date. Instead of reducing attention around the book, the Sussexes' response may have encouraged more people to search for it, discuss the allegations, and decide they wanted to read Bauer's claims for themselves. From a publicity perspective, that is the danger of responding aggressively to criticism.
Meghan's mind, she is Diana.
Yes.
I mean, Diana Spencer is Meghan Spencer. And that was all part of her imagination that somehow she could inherit the glow of her dead mother-in-law. So I think that was another reason for Charles to say. Sussexes only will talk to people who repeat their own narrative.
Yes.
And who they can control. So the idea that you could get the truth from the Sussexes is contradictory.
PR expert Renee Smith, founder of Atticism, reportedly argued that the response made Harry and Meghan appear deeply affected by the allegations. Her point was not that every claim in Bauer's book had automatically been proven true. Instead, she suggested the allegations connected with existing public debates surrounding the couple, making their reaction appear even more significant. And that detail matters. The public statement attacked Bauer's credibility, motives, and methods, but it did not publicly answer every individual allegation raised in the serialized material. There was no detailed public response to the reported brand audit involving Sentebale. No point-by-point explanation of Chandauka's alleged conversation with Harry. And no full rebuttal of Bauer's wider argument that Harry had gradually become separated from longtime friends, advisors, and institutions. Of course, choosing not to answer every allegation does not prove those allegations are true. Public figures often avoid detailed responses because answering dozens of claims can create even more headlines. But Bauer and other critics interpreted the strategy differently. They argued that attacking the person delivering criticism instead of publicly challenging each claim fit the same pattern Bauer had been describing throughout the book.
They said Mr. Bauer's commentary has long crossed the line from criticism into fixation. This is someone who has publicly stated the monarchy in fact depends on actually obliterating the Sussexes from our state of life, language that speaks for itself.
That argument brings the story back to the phone number Harry reportedly changed without telling certain relatives. Bauer's broader theory is that when relationships become difficult or uncomfortable, information appears, Harry increasingly creates distance from the person or institution involved. Old friends allegedly disappeared from his circle. Palace advisors lost influence. Relationships inside the royal family deteriorated. The leadership dispute at Centerbale became public. And now the author making new allegations was being accused of obsession and fixation. Whether those situations truly belong in one connected pattern is open to debate. But some royal biographers claimed senior members of the family had concerns about Harry and Meghan's trajectory long before the couple stepped away from royal duties. According to royal biographer Ingrid Seward, Prince Philip privately compared Meghan to Wallis Simpson and reportedly referred to her as Dow, meaning Duchess of Windsor.
Remember, Harry and Meghan threatened to sue at the drop of a hat, and they have never tried to sue Tom Bauer because they know what he writes is true.
The comparison carries serious historical weight. Wallis Simpson was an American divorcee whose relationship with King Edward VIII became connected to one of the biggest royal crises of the 20th century. Edward eventually gave up the throne, left Britain, and spent much of his later life outside the central royal institution. Critics of Harry and Meghan argue there are similarities. An American woman enters royal life, tensions grow between the prince and his traditional circle, advisors and friends become more distant, and eventually the couple leaves the working monarchy. But the historical comparison becomes even more controversial when the discussion turns from Harry's isolation to the question of what Meghan may have gained from leaving royal life behind. Royal biographer Sally Bedell-Smith has also pointed toward the wider impact Meghan's arrival had on the monarchy, arguing that an American woman entered royal life and dramatically changed the existing family dynamic. But historical comparisons can become messy very quickly, especially when Wallis Simpson is brought into the discussion. There are important differences between the two stories. Some historians argue Wallis Simpson has been unfairly blamed for the abdication crisis, and that King Edward VIII was far more responsible for his own decisions than popular history sometimes suggests. According to that interpretation, Wallis reportedly attempted to discourage Edward from giving up the throne, and later became a convenient target for criticism surrounding a complicated royal crisis. That context matters. Bauer's wider argument, however, appears to focus less on claiming Meghan and Wallis are identical people, and more on comparing what happened around the royal men involved.
I think she is a person who's done huge damage to the royal family, has been deeply, deeply inaccurate on many issues, and is of absolutely no value either to the royal family or society. But she just sucks from it. She takes from it and exploits it and profits from it.
Meghan seems like she could be on the Sarah Ferguson path.
She always looks good. She always survives. You never see a moment of weakness in public. I mean, Meghan is a consummate survival actress.
In both situations, critics point toward a prince becoming increasingly distant from the institution that had shaped his entire life. Longtime friends reportedly lose access. Trusted advisors have less influence. Relationships with relatives become strained. The royal role becomes smaller until eventually the prince is living outside the institution and depending heavily on a much narrower personal circle. That is the sequence Bauer wants readers to examine. According to the claims presented throughout his book, concerns allegedly came from several directions over the years. Prince Philip reportedly saw warning signs. Queen Camilla allegedly became concerned about Harry's changing behaviour. Prince William reportedly questioned how quickly the relationship was moving. And Bauer argues that later controversies involving Harry's business projects and Sentebale fit into that same wider picture. Whether readers accept that interpretation is another question. But if Bauer's reporting is accurate, the consequences for Harry could extend far beyond damaged friendships and failed partnerships. According to the book, Harry is deeply worried about what could happen when William eventually becomes king. Bauer claims Harry fears William could take action against the Sussex titles or support efforts to remove them entirely.
An observer called her limpet cling. She struck a bespotted pose as a gesture of ownership that speaks of enduring bonding.
I came across with the impression of a woman who is very intelligent, very determined, very ambitious, but also ruthless. And in the end, in her terms, successful.
The legal and constitutional reality surrounding royal titles is more complicated than one future king simply making a personal decision, so the claim should not be treated as a guaranteed outcome. Still, the fear itself reveals how damaged the relationship between the brothers has reportedly become. William has not publicly confirmed Bauer's claims. However, reports surrounding the brothers continue to describe an extremely distant relationship. In August 2024, Harry and William both attended the funeral of their uncle, Lord Robert Fellows, in Norfolk. According to reports from people familiar with the event, the brothers remained apart. They reportedly did not sit together, hold a meaningful conversation, or publicly acknowledge one another. For two brothers who once appeared almost inseparable in public, the situation was difficult to ignore. Royal commentator Ian Pelham-Turner was later asked whether William would welcome Harry back into the royal circle. His reported response was essentially a very clear no. And this is where the entire controversy becomes bigger than one dramatic accusation. The available reporting includes allegations, private conversations described by biographers, public family disputes, business setbacks, and a major leadership conflict involving Sentebale. None of those events alone proves Bauer's overall theory. But when critics place them together, they see a troubling sequence.
I think that's the whole issue, that they were globally, and they are globally known, but because of the way they behaved in the last 4 or 5 years, and as the price of betrayal, their reputation and their status and their fortunes are crumbling.
Harry reportedly became distant from longtime friends. His relationship with William collapsed. Palace advisors lost influence. Commercial partnerships faced difficulties. Centerbal became consumed by a public leadership battle. And when Bauer released new allegations, Harry and Meghan's representatives attacked the author's credibility rather than publicly answering every individual claim. Bauer argues that these events reveal a repeating pattern. Others would say the explanation is much simpler. Harry made his own decisions, experienced serious family conflict, and struggled with the consequences of leaving one of the most powerful institutions in the world. Either way, the central issue is no longer whether Queen Camilla allegedly made one controversial remark to a friend. The real question is what happens next if Harry's relationship with his family remains frozen, his charitable connections continue changing, and his commercial opportunities become harder to maintain. Because the next stage of this story could determine whether Harry finds a new path forward outside the monarchy or becomes even more dependent on the life he built after leaving it. At this point, the controversy is no longer centred on one private comment allegedly made by Queen Camilla. Tom Bower's argument is that similar concerns appeared across different years, relationships, and institutions, with critics repeatedly describing Harry as becoming more distant from longtime friends, relatives, advisors, and organisations.
And so he became hypersensitive and blamed the media for the crashes of his relationships, never thinking that they could have something to do with himself. So he's a very complicated, depressed, unintelligent man who is seeking a role and has got really nobody on whom he could rely, which is in the end where Meghan stepped in. I mean, a needy man met a woman who could help him with his need.
That does not automatically prove Bower's interpretation is correct. Harry and Meghan have strongly rejected his portrayal, and many of the book's claims remain disputed. But the growing debate around Betrayal shows why this story continues attracting so much attention. And the controversy may not end with the royal family or Sentebale. Bower also raises questions about the Invictus Games in Vancouver, including reported attendance figures, concerns about whether celebrity attention overshadowed the event's mission, and criticism surrounding moments involving veterans that sparked debate online. Those claims deserve careful examination because the Invictus Games were created to celebrate wounded, injured, and sick service members, not simply the famous people attending alongside them. So, what do you think? Is Bower identifying a genuine pattern around Harry's relationships and public projects, or is he connecting separate controversies to create a more dramatic narrative? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, like the video, share it with someone who follows celebrity drama, and subscribe for more stories like this. And watch the next video appearing on your screen for even more celebrity drama and controversy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.